Today I want to talk about INFJ health. Are you healthy as an INFJ? Now, through our lives, we tend to have bouts of sadness, isolation, bouts of depression, things like that. And a lot of times during these moments in our life, it can cause us to basically neglect ourselves. We can maybe go days, maybe even, well, maybe not weeks, but days without really eating very good. I mean, maybe we eat, but just not very well. And maybe during this time, we may not drink very well. Or maybe during these bouts of depression, we may be depressed enough where we don't typically eat the right foods. Maybe we're eating junk food and things like that. But above all, when you really get to the point where you find some kind of spiritual awakening in your life, when you find a final awakening, where you feel completed inside, the physical toll it may take on your body to get there. I want to talk about that today, people. So basically, fasting, isolation, and the suffering it might take in order to find spiritual awakening. But is it worth it? In the long run, is it worth it? Because this is a trade-off for your soul that it must take in order to embark to the next level of consciousness. Somehow, there has to be a little bit of a sacrifice there. But we have to make sure that when these sacrifices are made, that they're not too costly to our physical well-being. All right? So typically in the old days, we had biblical prophets. Now, these are some prime examples. I mean, they were biblical prophets such as Isaiah and Ezekiel and John. And they were John the Baptist. There were a lot of prophets that spent many times in the desert, in the wilderness, things like that. And a lot of them spent many times fasting, deliberately fasting. In fact, even some monks and things like that, and some religions, I mean, Buddhist monks fast regularly, and they deliberately starve themselves in order to find some kind of a spiritual awakening in their sense, a spiritual elevation. Now, something about the idea of making the body suffer, depleting the body of nutrients, does something to the mind. It expands the mind in some ways. Or does it just the fact that it's pain, it's depletion, somehow brings you closer to a state of higher consciousness? And these things these practices pretty much have been done through history, that in order to find a certain level of consciousness, that yes, these practices are normal. They're pretty much common. Even Catholic monks in monasteries do the same thing. They go and they isolate. So isolation, fasting, and just denying themselves of any kind of ego pleasure. Basically, it's like starving the ego in a sense in order to be elevated to that higher plane. But like I said, it's the costs that I'm reflecting on right now, as far as like the cost of mind, cost of the body, on how it just affects us in the long run. And is it worth it in the long run? Well, yeah, so that's basically it. Spiritual strength comes at a cost. But at what cost? Now, typically, we may go through these bouts whether we want to or not. Especially as INFJs, we seem to be geared toward that. It's part of our personality. Our personality is very just geared toward that. We seem to have a natural longing to figure ourselves out. Whether or not it's spiritual longing, whether or not it's necessarily spirit, depending on your level of what your beliefs are, it may not be that. It may just be you want your own acknowledgement. You want self-awareness. Maybe it's just understanding yourself on a deeper level. But a lot of times we're almost put in these isolations almost by default. Sometimes it's nothing that we're trying to do. We don't gear ourselves that way. It just happens. These are just things that we're led into throughout the course of our life. We may eventually find ourselves just drifting into a realm where we're in isolation, and we're depressed, and we're longing, we're searching, we're hungering and thirsting for righteousness within ourselves by default. And we may stay there. But during that time, yeah, like I said, maybe we start having a cost that our nutrients of our bodies maybe depleted a little bit in this process. So there's going to be a bit of a spiritual trade-off in order to gain strength in that. Now, I guess there is a disclaimer to this. Naturally, if you're in good health, of course, if you're in good health, good shape, and you're not on medication and things like that, these things are necessary in order to find spiritual fulfillment. And as I said before, INFJs, it seems to be this is one of our modus operandi in our character, is to just find these things. I'm not saying every INFJ is right there. We're not all stereotypical cookie cutter. But a good majority of us are always going in and phasing in and out of these realms of finding ourselves, finding some deeper meaning. So I guess at these points here, I guess part of it is just making sure you stay healthy. Even during these bouts, I guess you could almost say, in a sense, spiritually, we seem to come out of it all right. You seem to get better. I mean, maybe you lose a few pounds. Maybe you feel like you just shed a few pounds off. Maybe it's actually beneficial. I mean, I've even heard possible studies that now that there's trends going on in physical fitness and things like that. There are trends going on where people will fast for 24 to 48 hours as a way of activating certain metabolisms in their body, like saying that it triggers certain things so that they burn fat a certain way, level. So they're trying to say that there's certain benefits to fasting and such in ways. So there's a possibility now, as I'm speaking, staying healthy, that they're doing studies that says that there's some beneficial qualities in order to fasting for periods of time. Whether or not that's true or not, I don't know, but it would seem to make a little bit of sense. But you have to obviously do it in a smart way. That's all. So, but the thing is, the trade-off is your health for grace, basically. That's basically what your trade-off is. For every pro, there's a con. For every positive, there's a negative. For everything that looks like you're gaining something has to be taken away a little bit. It just seems like that's the gain and loss method of the universe, the way things work. So part of finding spiritual fulfillment, finding some kind of completion, some kind of higher consciousness, well, it's somewhat of a cost. Obviously, you don't want it to be too much of a cost to you, but it does happen. So, but bottom line is, it's all about our inner peace. People, that is the ultimate goal of an INFJ. Not just for INFJs, anybody. This is a human condition to find inner peace. Not everybody. I mean, there's certain ones of us that do want peace, that do want to find inner peace. I mean, gosh, I know plenty of people that just love the turmoil that they're in and they relish in it. But that's for them. And there are plenty of people doing that too. But basically inner peace or inner conflict. I guess that's a choice. I mean, we have to be weary about our health as we go into these, but at the same time, we have to know that there's certain sacrifices that have to be taken in order to find inner peace. If spiritual strength comes at inner peace, then it may be worth it. Because if not, then we're stuck in inner conflict. We basically have two choices. We can look for inner peace and figure out what we need to find it, whether or not it means we have a spiritual cleansing, whether we have a spiritual longing, and we allow a certain level of our body to be depleted a little bit in order to find it, or we remain basically lost in our mind, and we just remain pretty much subject to the world and the whims of the world and the material world. But that's when we continue with our inner conflict. So we have two choices. We could either have inner peace and conflict with the world, or outer peace with the world and inner conflict. Well, I guess those are the main two choices we have. So there has to be a little bit of sacrifice in order to attain either or both, I guess you could say. Okay, so that's basically what I wanted to talk about, people. So stay healthy as you're on your quest. I mean, understand you have to take care of yourself during your spiritual cleansings as well. Well, people, if you like this content, thank you. And give me some thumbs up. And if you would, subscribe to my channel. Let me know you like this content. Leave some comments, and I'll try to send forth another video, or maybe a series of videos that align with this discussion today. All right then, people. Hopefully you got a little something out of that. Thank you so much. And until the next time, have yourself a wonderful rest of your day.